Imagine I came into your house right now and kicked you out. You're not going to be happy, you're probably going to take me to court, likely going to stop watching my videos where you see my face or hear my voice. That would make sense. Given how long wrestlers are on the road though, or they were in the old times, the locker room does become their home. So with that in mind, I'm Sami from What Culture. Please do hit that subscribe button. This is 10 wrestlers who were kicked out of said locker room. Number 10, The Miz. This is one of the most famous of these tales, and it really is a testament to The Miz, who took it on the chin and won back the respect of his peers. Mike Mizanin had already raised some eyebrows as he jumped across from reality TV, and given his naturally loud persona, there were a few who had already decided they weren't going to be a fan. John Bradshaw Layfield, who was on commentary at the time, was one of these. It took all of 60 seconds to realise JBL wasn't overly smitten with this rookie. Early on though, it was Chris Benoit who fell out the most with The Miz after, of all the things, the A-lister ate some chicken over his bag. Unaware of the rules of the locker room, not only did Miz sit in the wrong place, but he nibbled on some of his food too close to Benoit's things, so got a telling off. The real issue came when The Miz thought this was a joke and laughed. It led to Chris banning him from re-entering, and amazingly, it would be about a year before The Miz was let back in. For a good 12 months or so, he had to change in the corridor, but that's why it's more power to him. That would have ended most. The Miz used it as fuel to come back even better. Number 9, the Bella Twins. Nikki and Brie never did mention who was specifically responsible for kicking them out of the locker room, but they did make a very emotional statement about it in their 2020 autobiography. Tying into some hazing they received after their call-up from FCW in 2008, the Bellas also had to deal with deliberately being given the wrong times to arrive at shows, which meant they also got in hot water with management. And this is what bullies used to do to me after I moved schools, although there it was the wrong classroom, so whoever did do that, you can kiss my ass, it makes you a moron. It also meant the other wrestlers decided that Brie and Nikki should now be forced to change elsewhere until the higher-ups heard about this and put things right. Until then though, yeah, the Bellas were forced to go into the bathroom to put on their gear. It's a great sign of the strength of their character that they decided to not show the same disrespect in their book, because like I say, no names were given. And just to wrap this up with a PSA, we should all try and be a lot nicer to each other. Although at the start of this, I did kick you out of your house. Number 8, the Young Bucks. Another well-known story that seems even more nuts now given where the Young Bucks ended up. It all ties into this idea that Matt and Nick Jackson were killing the business. It was beyond absurd, as in reality they were revolutionizing the whole thing, but it stuck to such a degree it became the name of their autobiography. Cheap plug too, that is good, you should read it. Much like other stories within that though, the Bucks have talked plenty of times about how they rub people in TNA the wrong way, including industry veterans Rob Van Dam and Booker T. The word was that they had been disrespectful towards the former WCW and ECW champions by not even introducing themselves, which did find the tag team getting changed from everyone else. I find this one so weird, as while I obviously don't know Matt or Nick, it kinda feels like you only need to listen to them in one interview to realize they're super nice guys who are likely just a little bit intimidated, as we all would be. Over in the corner was a five-time WCW champion. It's all water under the bridge now, with King Booker especially saying very kind things about the pair, but still, not only did TNA not understand what they had, the soon-to-be best tag team in the world had to go through all that backstage politics. Wrestling. Number 7, Mileena. According to speculation and rumours, Mileena was quite the heat magnet in the mid-2000s. A regular in Wrestler's Court, it started when she was a part of Eminem and continued after she was out the group. In 2016, Mileena was also moved to Raw alongside Johnny Nitro, and her behaviour was soon deemed to be unacceptable by none other than Lita. Apparently acting on behalf of all the women, Lita told Mileena the way she was going about her business was not going to be tolerated, so it was time to leave the locker room. By association, it was also said Nitro got into bother because that was just the way, and while we don't exactly know for sure what was going on, it seemed as if Mileena felt like she was a bigger star than the rest of the roster believed she was. I have no clue, of course, but I will say modern day locker rooms sound far more calm than the old ones, and I have a feeling in my tum-tum that's a good thing. Number 6, Don Callis. Right now, Don Callis is one of the most important people in wrestling, which just goes to show. Even if you have a few bad times, you can always get back to the top. But if we do return to his WWF 1997 to 1999 run when he was known as a Jackal, you will find a bunch of stories of other wrestlers who weren't particularly enthused with the leader of the Truth Commission. What exactly he did, who knows, but as he was a former ECW guy, that likely didn't help. It did get so bad though that not only was it JBL who ordered him out the locker room, but Bradshaw also went and found the Hardy Boys and said if they wanted to be welcomed back into this magical space, they should go and rib the hell out of Don Callis as some sort of punishment retribution thing. Seems like a lot of wasted energy to me. And now, of course, you're asking, well, what the hell did Matt and Jeff do to get there? Well, number 5, the Hardy Boys. And here we go. When the Hardys released a 2003 autobiography, it served as a good read, but was also part of the string of books that came out from WWE, as they saw there was money to be made. And they were right. Matt and Jeff took it seriously, however, and talked very openly about the hazing they had suffered when they arrived in the company. Neither drank alcohol when they joined, but that soon changed after they were pressured into doing so. And then JBL took them to task after they had inadvertently disrespected Kane. The tag team had unknowingly sat in the Big Red Machine's airplay seat during a flight, and as soon as Bradshaw heard this, he went to work. It saw the Hardys end up in wrestlers' court where they were told to accept a bunch of chores, such as bullying Don Callis, as well as buying a bunch of beer for the locker room. I'm going to guess that a simple conversation about what they'd done would have made this far easier, and also, unless the chair is on fire, how the hell would you know it was Kane's seat to begin with? Number 4, Match Striker. Chris Benoit returns as the keeper of the locker room, as this time he didn't take too kindly to one Match Striker. This was all hearsay, but as well as some of the other talent deciding they didn't much like this story about him being a teacher who had ditched classes to wrestle, when there were then extra whispers that Striker had said he thought the Raw roster was better than SmackDown's, bad news was coming. Mostly because Matt had just been traded to the blue brand. Ruh-roh. Eddie Guerrero also felt disrespected due to some chats he had with Striker, and it all ended up with Benoit throwing his bags into the hallway to get the message across. Interestingly, Matt has talked about this after the fact and said that Benoit had forewarned him about this earlier in the day and then followed through so that everybody else could see it and they could learn a lesson. I swear, all of this must have been like walking on eggshells. Number 3, Enzo Amore. When Enzo Amore was released by WWE in 2018, it was controversial to say the least. There were reports about his personal life that were not nice to read, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And the reason for this is because he'd already run afoul of the entire locker room. The issue is that what we were seeing on TV was just Enzo. He was loud, brash, and would tell that to anybody who would listen, and it led to an infamous bus ride where of all the people Roman Reigns had to have a word, which ended with Amore learning he was not getting changed with anybody else when they got to their destination. And given that everyone says that Roman is the most laid-back dude ever, well, that ain't great. The Wrestling Observer reported this happened on a 2017 European tour, and soon after Enzo was separated from Big Cass, sent to 205 Live, and had his ass kicked a lot. These things may have tied in. Number 2, Ken Kennedy. The WWE story of Ken Kennedy is fascinating, but I've spoken on it a lot, so just know he went crazy close to not only becoming the WWE champion, but also the son of Vince before instead he lost his job. I mean, that is quite the 180. As he was making his way up these ranks though, Kennedy managed to make an enemy of Bob Holly, which as you may know, you don't want to do. For references, please read Mr. Holly's book. After Ken had competed in a house show battle royal, however, Bob felt disrespected because not only had Kennedy not thanked him, he hadn't thanked anybody else either. This led to Holly verbally wrecking him in front of the rest of the roster before he took his bag and woof, out the door it went. Thankfully, these two eventually made amends and he was let back in, but man, I would have slept with one eye open. Number 1, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. These two will seemingly always be joined at the hip. It works because they're both so good. But they hit a wall in 2017 when not only were they sent out the locker room, but they were sent home, even though WWE was overseas. It all started when there was word that Zayn and Owens had not followed Vince McMahon orders on an episode of SmackDown, which still sounds nuts. But yes, apparently the boss had told the pair to attack the New Day after a match, but instead they decided to tuck tail and run away like a couple of cowardly heels. When we were done with all this, it was McMahon who said they needed to go home, and this is when some eyebrows were raised. Sami and Kevin were in the midst of an anti-authority storyline at the time, which made most think this was just another part of the angle. With that said, both guys were underused on Survivor Series a few weeks later and got battered by AJ Styles in a handicap match, which provided some evidence that maybe they had screwed up and were now in the doghouse. Thankfully, it all worked out in the end, although Sami Zayn can never actually win a match, but my word, he's so damn good. Know of any other wrestlers who are kicked out of the locker room? And there's probably tons of them. Make sure you let us know in the comments below and then give the video a like, share the video, and hit that subscribe button. I promise it won't bite you. Then we also have a website called WhatCulture.com. We have a Twitter account called WhatCultureWWE, and we have a YouTube channel, and you know this because you're on it right now. Why don't you get to clicking and see what you want to be picking? I'm really proud of myself. My name is Sami from What Culture. I appreciate your time, and I will talk to you again soon.